Hi everyone. So this lesson is about taking the factored form of a polynomial and turning it into a graph. So basically the opposite of what we've been doing. So what we've been doing is taking the graph and writing the factored form. So now we're given the factored form and we're making the graph. So one thing that I added off to the side here, and I'll add this on Classroom, is this end behavior this end behavior chart, which I'm going to keep referencing throughout this lesson. So just remember, we learned this earlier in the year. This column is even degree, positive leading coefficient, negative leading coefficient. This is odd degree, positive, negative. So it just shows what the end behavior looks like. And it's really important for graphing. You need to know what the end behavior looks like. So I have all these steps written out over here in this box. So, when you're doing this on your own, you can either rewatch this video or just read the notes. But basically, if you take a look at number 1, we are given this equation right here in factored form. So that's the first thing you want to do is make sure it's in factored form, which all the ones we're going to do to start off with are all going to be in factored form. And then after vacation, we'll do some where we have to factor it. The first thing that you have to do is identify the degree of the polynomial. Now, you may remember a couple months ago when we first learned about polynomials and the degree of a polynomial, we said it was the highest exponent. Well, that's when it's in standard form. This one is not in standard form. So in order to get the degree, we have to add the exponent of each factor. Now remember, let me zoom in here. Remember that these factors, x plus 4 and x minus 1, those really have a degree of 1, right? Even though it's not there, it still counts as a degree. So to get the degree of the polynomial, you add the exponents of each factor. So in this one, we're going to take 1, 1, and 2. We're going to add 1 plus 2, which is 4. Really, we care whether the degree is even or odd. That's the most important thing. So then we can figure out the end behavior. So 4 is an even number, so we would say it's an even degree function. Sign of the leading coefficient. So this is important for end behavior too. So sign of leading coefficient, you're going to look at the equation, look at the front. If there's a negative there, it's a negative leading coefficient. If there's no negative, like right now, it's a positive leading coefficient. Okay, now for the zeros. Now, in this last part of this section, we have been identifying the zeros and then writing the factors. Now, don't forget that factors and zeros have opposite signs. So if I have a factor of x plus 4, that's a negative 4 for my 0. We may as well also list the multiplicity because you're going to need that too. So this has an exponent of 1, so that's multiplicity 1. This one is going to be a 0 of positive 1, also multiplicity 1. This one is going to be a 0 of negative 1, but this one is multiplicity 2. Okay, so those are our zeros with multiplicity. Now here comes the graph. And so I've given you just a bunch of like X and Y axis. I find it easier to graph on these because you can decide how big you want it to be, like how big you want your units to be versus sometimes when I give you a coordinate plane graph, it's like too small and like congested. So I like to space it out on here. So here's where we're going to start graphing. The first thing that you want to do is plot out your zeros. So we have a 0 at negative 4. Oops, let's switch to this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Just kind of like estimate. Here's a 0 at negative 4. We have a 0 at negative 1. And we have a 0 at positive 1. So you want to kind of like number your x-axis. You don't have to number every single one, just the ones that you're going to use is just fine. If you want to add more, you can. The next thing we do is here's where we're going to use the end behavior chart. I'm going to draw in the end behavior arrows. And so what I mean by that is I'm going to come over here and look at our chart. This particular example is even positive leading coefficient. So let's come back over here. Even positive leading coefficient is this box right here. So this is what our end behavior is going to look like. So our graph on the ends are both going to go up. So that's what you do next is you draw in the end behavior. So watch, I'll show you. So I have my zeros drawn in. So now I'm going to draw in this one's going to go up and this one's going to go up. And again, I got that from even degree, positive leading coefficient. I looked at the chart. Now we have to make the actual graph part. And for that, we're going to use the multiplicity. When you sketch the graph, this is just an estimate. It's just to sketch. It's the thing, like we really just focus on the zeros and their multiplicity. So we start on the outside, we start on the outside zeros and then we work our way to the middle. Don't start in the middle. Start on either the left side and then go to the right side or vice versa. So watch. The first one I'm going to do is -4. That's multiplicity 1. So I'm going to take my end behavior arrow and I'm just going to go straight through 4 and just kind of like leave it hanging here. I'll come back to that. Now I'm going to go to +1, which is also multiplicity 1. So just straight through and kind of leave it hanging. Now at the last one, at -1, it's multiplicity 2, which remember at multiplicity 2, it hits it and bounces back. And then you need to connect it to the ones you already have. So sometimes you may need to go back and like erase it a little to kind of make it nice and smooth because you want your curves to be as smooth as possible. But something like that, obviously it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't quite matter like where you put these, like you could go like further down. This is just a sketch. So we're not going to figure out exactly where those need to go. This is sufficient. And that's your graph. So it's pretty easy. Now that we've like learned so much about zeros and multiplicity, it's not so bad. Okay, let's look at this one. This one has a lot. So this one has a lot of factors. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They're all multiplicity 1. So that's a degree of 5, which is an odd degree. If you look in the front, also a positive. So that's a positive leading coefficient. Okay, let's do our zeros. These are all multiplicity 1. So remember just an X in the front here. That's a 0 of 0, multiplicity 1. This one is -3, multiplicity 1. This one is 4, multiplicity 1. This one is -1. I'm just doing the opposite sign. Whoops, multiplicity 1. And then 2, multiplicity 1. So those are all your zeros and their multiplicity. Now I'm going to look at my end behavior chart. Or actually, let's first draw in our zeros. So we go as far as -3. 1, 2, 3. So we have -3. We have -1. We have 0. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 2. And we have 4. Okay, so those are your zeros. Again, you can add in the rest of the numbers if you prefer. So now we're looking at the end behavior chart for odd positive. Let's see what that looks like. Odd positive. The right side goes up. Whoa, sorry. Odd positive. The right side goes up and the left side goes down. Remember odd, there's always one side that goes up and one side that goes down. So odd positive, right side up, left side down. So I'm going to add in my end behavior arrows here. So right side up, left side down. And again, I'm going to start on the outside zeros. And these are all multiplicity 1, so this kind of makes it easier. But I'm going to go through here, leave it. Go through here, leave it. Oops, I missed it. Okay. Keeps jumping on me. Okay. Well, you get the idea what I'm trying to do here. Well, that was even worse. What if I go to the right a little bit? Still. Okay, so let's just pretend that's where 4 was. You should be able to just, make it go through 4. So now I'm actually going to make it not as long. So now, there we go. We have to curve it. You don't want to make like jagged like lines like that. It's supposed to curve. So it hits -3. It's going to curve and go through 1. It's going to curve and go through 2. And then it has to go through 0 too. So from down here, we're curving up and then we're going to meet up there. So it's not the neatest sketch. I sometimes like to go over it one more time at the end just to kind of make it nice and smooth. And there we go. So there's number 2. Okay, we have a couple more. Let's say 3 more. Okay, so for this one, for the degree, we have 3, 1, and 1. This is a degree of 5, which is odd. Sign up leading coefficient. Look in the front. That's a negative leading coefficient. And let's do our zeros. So our zeros here, this one is a 0 of 0, multiplicity 3. This one is 3, multiplicity 1. This one is negative 2, multiplicity 1. So odd negative, again, if you reference this chart over here, odd negative, left side's up, right side's down, like in this bottom right. So let's draw in our zeros. So we have one at 3, 1, 2, 3. I like to space mine out as much as possible because it gives you room to do like your twists and turns. Well, not really twists, but it gives you room to do your turns. And that's 0. So we have 0, negative 2, and 3. This is odd negative. So that's the left side is up and the right side is down. So again, we're going to start on the outermost zeros, which is negative 2 and 3. So this is multiplicity 1, so it's going to go straight through. This is multiplicity 1, so it's just going to go, oops, I totally missed it. I'm going to move this over a little bit, actually. Why does this keep happening? This is so annoying. Sorry. There we go. I have to make it less straight, I guess, and then it doesn't think I want a straight line. Okay, so here's multiplicity 3. Multiplicity 3, remember, it's supposed to be like a little squiggle. So to do multiplicity 3, I'm going to put my pen. Right now, my pen is on 0. Whoops. And then you're going to do like a concave up like this, like a little curve. And then a concave down like that, opposite direction. You have to make sure you make it a curve. So I'm going to go over this one more time. So this curve, 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 another curve, and then through 3. Okay, so just make sure that it's known that when it's multiplicity 3 that it's not a straight line. Something like that is perfect. Okay, let's look at the next one. Okay, so for degree we have 2, 1, 1, and 2. So 2 plus 1 plus 1 plus 2. It's going to be 6, which is an even degree. Sign of leading coefficient is negative. Okay, let's do our zeros. So this one is a 0 of 0, multiplicity 2. This one is 4, multiplicity 1. This one is negative 2, multiplicity 1. This one is negative 5, multiplicity 1. Oh, just kidding. Multiplicity 2. See right here? 2. I'm so used to them all being 1. Okay, so even negative, if you look at the end behavior chart, they both point down. I'll show you. Just to show you so you don't doubt me. Even, this is the even column. Even negative is here. They both point down. So anytime it's even, they either both point up or both point down. If it's negative, it's down. If it's even, it's up. Whoa. Okay, let's zoom back in here. So even, negative, they both point down. But let's do our zeros first. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we have negative 5. We have negative 2. We have 0. We have 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so again, it was even negative, so they're both going to point down. I'm going to actually use a different color to make it pop a little bit. So this one's going to point down. This one's going to point down. So again, we start on the outside and work our way in. So I'm going to start at negative 5, which is multiplicity 2, which remember, multiplicity 2, you hit the 0 and you bounce back down. Okay, multiplicity 4 for 4 is 1. So just going to go straight through at 4 and kind of just hang out there for a second. Okay, let's go to negative 2 is multiplicity 1. So this came back down. It's going to go through negative 2 and kind of hang out up there. Notice that both of my ends are above the x-axis right now, which is perfect because the last one, 0, is multiplicity 2. So they're both going to have to come and bounce off 0 and connect. Something like that. Again, I like to just go over it one more time, kind of soften it up a little bit, make it nice and smooth. If you need to erase any part of it, you can erase any part of it and start over. Whoops. Let's pretend like that. I hit that perfectly. I would definitely use a pencil when doing this. So there's that one. And we have one more example. Ooh, this one has 2 that are multiplicity 3. So, okay, for the degree, we have 1, 3, and 3. So that's 7, which is odd. It's a positive leading coefficient. Let's do our zeros. So X is going to be 0 multiplicity 1. This one's going to be 3 multiplicity 3. This one's going to be negative 3 multiplicity 3. Okay, odd positive, the right side goes up and the left side goes down. So take a look at that chart to verify. Let's put in our zeros. So 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, and then 0. I'm going to switch to blue. So odd positive, right side's up and left side's down. Okay, so these are both multiplicity 3. So remember, it has to like kind of come out at a curve. So here's, let me move this over a little bit. I'm going to start here, kind of concave down, and then turn concave up like that. Positive 3, same thing. It's going to come down, concave down, turn concave up, concave down. And so now I have to curve these around and they have to go through 0. So I'm just going to curve this. And at 0, it's multiplicity 1, so it's straight through. See the difference between this straight through and this? See how the 3 is like more of a little curve? So I'm just going to go over this one more time before I'm done. Make it nice and smooth. Perfect. Okay, so then there's that one. I have multiplicity 3, 3, and 1. I think that's our last example. Yep. So give these a try. We are going to do more of this when we come back from vacation, obviously. So, I'm just going to have you try a few today, just to try it, and then we'll go over it again. All right, so that's it. You have a great day. Let me know if you have questions, and we'll see you soon. Bye.